On Shmira. For tonight.
Welcome to On Shmira, your nightly bedtime podcast from Indoor World. Listen to your favorite Sevet tell their favorite stories as you're on your way to sleep. Now close your eyes because the lights are going off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, it's me, Zadok Blau. I was told you're in need of a good story. But there's one issue. I'm a kind of boring person. I don't have any good stories. Now, of course, I could make up some exciting tale and just tell you guys a story that didn't really happen, but I feel like that's kind of dishonest. And I don't really want to teach you guys that lying is okay. So instead, I brought in my friend Robert, who has plenty of great stories to tell. Hey, Robert, come over here. What you want me? Oh, you want me to tell story? I can tell them a story. Yes, of course. I have very good stories. I'm a good storyteller. It's true, he's very good at shh. I am talking, Zadok. This guy has no manners, I tell you. In any case, yes. As my friend said, my name is Robert Kruselstein. Pleased to meet you. I live in a very small country by the name of Bisselstadt, about 5 miles west of Russia and 1,200 south of Russia. So, I live in a very small country called Bisselstadt that you've probably never heard of. You've probably never heard of us because, well, as I said, we're very small. In fact, our population is around 3,715.5 people. So, people tend to kind of forget we exist. But we do exist. Now, because we're such a small country, we don't have a lot of the fancy pants things that you big countries have. For instance, we don't have a hat maker. Yes, the only hats we can get are from other countries. We have no homegrown hats in Bisselstadt. Now, this shouldn't be much of a problem because in Bisselstadt it's literally never summer. It just, rains all year long, so hats are kind of not necessary. Except for one problem. We had a very strange king. A king who would just kind of make up laws when he felt like it. I mean, kings get to make laws? I didn't know that was a thing. I thought kings just kind of sat on a throne all day. But, So, the king had a son. And he decided, by law, that everybody who wanted to come to his son's birthday party, his, 0th birthday party, would have to wear a hat. Because otherwise it wasn't respectful. Now, the king was actually the only man with a hat in all of Bisselstadt, because he had a crown. You could argue about whether a crown is a hat, but we don't need to get into that right now. So, all the folk wanted to come to the birthday party, of course. There was going to be cake. I mean, you've got to get your priorities straight, right? However, we didn't have any hats. So, we did a big lottery to see which one of us would have to leave on the long and dangerous journey outside of Bisselstadt in order to come back with hats. And my name was picked. I knew this was not going to be an easy journey, but it was worth it, because it was all in the name of cake. So I kissed my mother goodbye, packed my bags with lots of big boppers, which I'm told is also a delicacy in Camp Stone. Interesting, it's quite a coincidence. I packed my bag full of big boppers, I took my trusty walking stick, my trusty walking shoes, and my trusty walking handkerchief, and I stepped out of the door and made my way outside of Bisselstadt. Now, something you must realize about Bisselstadt. It is in the middle of nowhere. Like, quite literally. As in, Bisselstadt is in the middle of this area of planet Earth known as nowhere, and we're right in the middle. It's known as nowhere because, nobody actually cares about it, I suppose. So all the lands around Bisselstadt are very wild and full of beasts and cave trolls and all sorts of other nasty things that you've probably never even heard of. So I was worried, and I needed to have all my wits about me. So I started on my way. And I went through all these wild forests full of overgrown vines and strange creatures, but whenever the strange creatures got too close, I just threw a big bopper at them. And they ate the big bopper instead of me. It was Kind of not worth it, honestly, because that meant I didn't get any big boppers for myself. But not getting eaten was a nice bonus, you know? So I made my way through the forests, occasionally throwing a big bopper aside to tempt the animals away from eating me. And eventually I made it through the forests, to the border of Bisselstadt. But here's the thing. Bisselstadt is actually an island. People don't know this. People in Bisselstadt don't know this, you know? It's like, we don't really teach geography very well, but so be it. And the only way out of the island was this underground passageway that led all the way to the mainland. Now, since this was the only way to go, obviously, I went into the passageway. So I traveled through the passageway. When I came across an underground river. Now the river was very long and very deep, and I was not much of a swimmer. But a man has to do what a man has to do. So, I jumped right in, and I began swimming with great big strokes as I tried to make my way to the other side. I made it about 100 meters before I started sinking, so I turned back. And exhausted, wet, and dripping, I stood on the other side, wondering how in the world I would ever get over. That's when I noticed the bridge. Would have been nice to notice that earlier, you know, but hey, life doesn't always work out how you expect it to work out. So, I shouldered my backpack and went on the bridge, when all of a sudden my way was stopped by a giant cave troll, and the cave troll said to me, "If you do not answer my riddle correctly, I will eat you." So I said, "Want a big bopper instead?" The troll said, "Actually, that's kind of tempting, but, you know, I'm lactose intolerant, so I'm afraid not." Well, there went my main plan. And I was getting kind of nervous, also because my insurance policy didn't really cover cave troll attacks. So I said, "All right, let's hear the riddle." He said, "What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at evening?" I said, "A shapeshifter who likes changing the amount of legs he has." The troll said, "No, of course not. It's a human. You know, baby goes on 4 legs, and then when he's a man, he goes on 2, and when he's an old man, he uses a cane, so it's like 3 legs." I said, "Yes, but is my answer wrong?" He thought about it and said, "Technically, your answer is not wrong, so I can't eat you, but I kind of feel like you cheated. So I'll have to ask you a different question." I said, "Why?" He said, "What do you mean, why?" I said, "Why do you ask these questions?" He said, "I don't actually know. It's just, you know, it's what my father did, and I just kind of wanted to continue the tradition. But now I think of it, why am I crouching under a bridge in an underground cavern doing nothing but waiting for poor people to come along, looking for hats so I can tell them a riddle and then eat them? It's not a very fulfilling lifestyle, honestly." Last I heard, he actually made Aliyah. He's in Israel right now, yes, true story. So, with that, he just jumped away, and I never saw him again. Alright, after having inadvertently caused the troll a midlife crisis, I continued on my way, and crossed over to the mainland, and I went to find the hat maker. Now, the hat maker was an old, wizened man, with only 2 teeth and 2 noses as well. And he said to me, and I'll never forget this, "Robert, I don't have any hats. Oh, and by the way, I'm your father." And I was like, "What? Are you serious?" I was so surprised. Not that he was my father, I'd kind of figured that part out, no. I was surprised that there were no hats. And he said to me, "Yes, I have no hats because, as I said, I'm your father. And I have left all the hats I ever made buried under the floorboards in your bedroom for you to have when you grow up. And seeing as you've made this journey across the river, clearly you are grown up." Well, okay, so be it. I said goodbye to my father who I had just met, and I went back home, and I looked in my room under the floorboards, and indeed, there were so many hats of every type, top hats, bowler hats, kovatembel even, which I'm not even sure what that is, but it's something Israeli apparently. And everybody in Bisselstadt got hats, and we all went to the party and ate cake, and it was the happiest day of my life. Now, what is the moral of this story? The moral of the story is not some kind of moral about the real treasure being at home. No, that was just a complete coincidence. No, the moral of the story is don't live in Bisselstadt. It's a strange place. No, don't come here. Really. All right, that is the story. Well, thank you, Robert. Kids, I didn't know he would tell such a strange story. I really apologize. But yeah, in all seriousness, don't live in Bisselstadt. It's a weird place. All right, good night to everybody.
Thank you for listening and good night. This has been On Shmirah.
This podcast was produced in Sugar Grove, Pennsylvania by Alicia Kelman and Eliza Makovsky. Thank you to our Tevet members who have contributed their stories. For more information, visit campstone.org.